welcome back to another episode of Talking DS. We are thrilled to have Lauren O'Connell with us today. She's the beauty editor at Cosmopolitan Middle East magazine, who has spent her career spotlighting beauty, skincare, and wellness, becoming a trusted voice in the region.
Beyond her professional accomplishments, Lauren has shown incredible strength and resilience in the face of personal challenges, including her recent battle with breast cancer, in her own words, a life quake.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, your story is one of courage and hope, and we're so honored to have you here with us today. And I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So, you've been through so much in the past 12 months.
Yes.
Less than 12 months. If you want to start from the beginning of your journey.
Sure. So what happened was in the beginning of December, it may have been the end of November, I was sitting in my office at home and I was going through a bunch of work emails, and this idea just came to my mind, which was do a breast self-exam. I was sitting there and I just started to palpate my breasts, and right away on my right breast, if you can think of it as a clock, at the 12 o'clock mark, there was just this big lump. And I thought to myself, what is that? And I decided to wait for 30 minutes and maybe somehow, I don't know, it would magically disappear. But 30 minutes later, it was still there. So I right away made a call to go see my GP just to have it looked at. And, you know, I didn't think it was anything, to be honest with you, but I just like to, you know, always cross my T's, dot my I's, just get everything squared away, because I did not have time for breast cancer. I was about to launch my beauty brand. And so I went and saw my doctor, and she sent me right away to a radiologist, which was in the same clinic, which is one thing I have to say I love about Dubai is everything is so quick. If it had been back home, I probably would have had to wait an extra 2 or 3 weeks. And so I went to the radiologist, and you know, laying there, they're doing an ultrasound. And then he said to me, you know, I'd like to do a biopsy. And I said, okay. And still didn't really think much of it. I just thought maybe, I don't know, they want to investigate it a little bit further, but still there's no way it can be breast cancer. It just didn't resonate with me ever having this disease. I'm a healthy person. I don't even drink coffee. I hadn't had a sip of alcohol in 2 years. So, you know, I was on just this healthy path.
And you had never felt that lump before, like you didn't have the slightest idea there was something.
I had 2 ultrasounds prior, but it was just because I have dense breast tissue. So I thought it was just another, you know, maybe
Because it's still something.
yeah, just something like
No,
that.
but dense breast tissue is normal, I think.
Yes.
Depends on the age.
It's
right?
totally normal.
For
And-
younger women, it's normal.
Yeah, and they always said to me, don't worry about it. It's nothing. So I just had that don't worry about it. It's nothing kind of thought process in my mind. I had just hosted a breast cancer charity event 2 months prior.
Yeah.
So, you know, and when I was there, I saw women with breast cancer, and it just never resonated with me that I would have it. So anyways, long story short, I was on a bus in Azerbaijan I was on a press trip. I had just landed there, and I was going to the inauguration of the winter season. There were a bunch of GCC influencers in the bus, as well as a large number of Russian journalists. And I had said to my doctor, if you find the news, when you get the news, just text it to me. But I wasn't supposed to get the news for a week, and it ended up coming 2 days later. So she texted me, and she started off with "my love," and I knew right away it was breast cancer. And then she wrote, "It is breast cancer," and they were playing this Azerbaijani.
Azerbaijani.
Yeah.
I can only say it once.
They were playing some house music, and they had strobe lights up on this bus. It was this fancy bus. And there were people all around me going like this.
Oh, no, that's so surreal.
It was almost as if I was out of body watching me going through it. I was so shocked. And what started was a long series of different tests and scans. I felt like a human pincushion. I was always being injected with things or blood draws. And they said to me, they didn't think that the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes, which would be amazing because then that would mean I didn't need chemotherapy. I had 2 biopsies in that area. Both came back negative. But then when I had this one particular scan, it lit up as if there was some activity there. They weren't sure if it was just from all of the trauma from the biopsies that were kind of making the scan light up or if there was cancer activity. So instead of having me do chemotherapy first, they went with the assumption that I did not have anything in my lymph nodes and we had a lumpectomy. That was what was recommended to me instead of a mastectomy. So I had a lumpectomy and that had its own learning curve. I had a drain sticking out of me afterwards. I did have a silver lining, which was I had a breast lift. So I was thrilled about that. And luckily my insurance paid for the other breast. So
I was just going to say, was it a double breast?
So I felt like, there's always silver linings in everything. So I had the lumpectomy and then just my gut feeling was they were going to have me do another lumpectomy. I just had a feeling and they did. And they just wanted to make sure, it's called making sure the margins are clear. So they wanted to just get all those cancerous cells out of the tissue. And actually with the second lumpectomy, there was no more cancerous cells. So that was great. So my doctor then said to me, you have to go through chemotherapy. And I knew it because after my first lumpectomy, when I was in the recovery room, my breast surgeon came up to me and she woke me up and she said to me, there was a complication. Your surgery has taken a lot longer. And I said to her, what time is it? And I think it was maybe 5 or 6 p.m. And my surgery should have ended around 3 or 4 p.m. Yeah. And it was that they had found cancer in my sentinel lymph node, which is the first lymph node that the cancer would hit. It was only in that lymph node, but they took out 4 lymph nodes total. So I knew lying on that bed when I was so groggy, I knew I was going to have to get chemotherapy. And I really didn't want it because I felt like it was going to slow my life down. It was going to be a huge roadblock to me starting my beauty brand. And it was also going to mean I would lose my hair, which I was so attached to my hair. I didn't need to have the lesson of losing your hair to realize how much you love it. I took such great care of my hair. And I just didn't want to lose my hair. I didn't want to go through all the side effects that would come. And I didn't realize either what the chemotherapy would actually be doing to my body. Breast cancer is a very interesting disease. There's so many different types of breast cancers. Mine was fed by estrogen, which is responsible for keeping us looking young and beautiful. My estrogen in my body was causing my cancer to grow. So you have to stop producing estrogen, which means that you have to go into a chemical menopause. And at only 41 years old, when I thought I have another good probably 10 years till I hit menopause, I'm now going into it and I have to really readjust my mindset, my mind frame. I have to learn about what this actually is. And, there's just so many interesting facets about breast cancer. And really, it's an adventure. I love an adventure. Adventure is my favorite word. Living in Dubai is an adventure. Being a mom of 2 teenagers is an adventure. And so is breast cancer. So that's how I chose to look at it. And I started chemotherapy. They put me on the toughest type of chemotherapy for breast cancer. It's known as the Red Devil. Mm-hmm. So I had 4 rounds of that over the course of 2 months. And initially I tried this technique called cold capping, which put negative 50 degrees Celsius dry ice on my head in a hat. And it was wrapped so tightly around my head. I felt like my head was stuck in an ice block. And I would have that on my head for 8 hours and it would be changed. The cap would be changed every 30 minutes. That was tougher than the chemo.
How much you spent on this? Because I know that it didn't work out for you.
Yeah.
And
it was about 4,000 US. So it's expensive, but I felt like if I could at least keep my hair, I would have some sense of normalcy in my life. And on week 3, so the 3rd week after my first infusion, my hair just fell out in clumps. And I mean, in my hand would be this massive clump of hair. And I remember over the course of about 3 days, I had about 5 or 6 of those clumps come out. And I had about probably 15 to 20% of the hair left on my head. And that was so shocking. And especially the industry I'm in, being a beauty editor, going to all these different beauty events, always being in front of a camera. I was also working as an MC. I had filmed for the Real Housewives. I have filmed for about half a day with them as a beauty editor as the beauty editor for Cosmo, filming the newest addition to the cast. And I had sort of this glam life going on, which I loved. And suddenly it was like my beauty was just melting away. Everything was being stripped off me. And it was really challenging to have to navigate through that and to realize that it was temporary and there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And what was going to get me through that was first and foremost my mindset. And luckily I have a very strong positive mindset, and I have a wonderful group of friends, and I have an amazing husband who came with me to every single appointment and session, chemotherapy session, and I have 2 great kids. So I was able to get through it. I, paid for the cold capping. It didn't work, but what? They had told me initially it would only be a 50% chance of it working because the chemo that I was particularly taking was so harsh. There's different types of chemo for different breast cancers. So I said to myself, all right, we're going to shave my head. Those are words I never thought I'd say, but I said them. And so I bought this little razor thing off InstaShop. And my husband and my kids all took turns shaving my head. I wrote on a piece of paper everything I wanted to leave behind me. And, having breast cancer opened up a lot of space in my life because I was always one of those hustle and bustle type of women. I was always on the go, going to the next big thing. And suddenly I had to stop and take care of myself. And, I always overlooked myself. So here I am now focusing on myself, and my schedule is wide open. So it made me start thinking about, who are the people in my life? Do I like everybody in my life? Are there people I need to get rid of? Is it really serving me to always be just running around like crazy? And where are my boundaries? Do I have strong boundaries? Where are they weak? So I started doing a lot of introspection because I just had so much time on my hands. And I wrote down on this piece of paper everything that I wanted to leave behind with my old hair, that old energy. And I had a it was a ritual. And in a black pot, I put my hair in there. I put some rose petals. I put the letter or the list of everything I just no longer served me. I put my crystals around it and I lit it on fire and I burned it. My husband for sure thought I was going crazy, but he was just rolling with it. Yeah. So I just, let everything go. And then I had the next 12 rounds of chemo, which were a different type. It's called Taxol. And that one put me into a chemical menopause. So that had its own challenges. I was getting insane hot flashes, up to 30 a day, where your body is just on fire. My skin, which is always quite clear. I'm known for my skin. I'm a skincare YouTuber, and that's actually how I got into Cosmo. But my skin broke out from all the steroids they were pumping me with. I gained 15 kgs. I just no longer recognized the person in the mirror. My eyebrows fell out. My eyelashes fell out. I had 2 eyelashes on my right eye, and I actually put mascara on them one time just to be fun, just to be silly. But, it was like everything was gone. And when I looked like this, could I look at myself in the mirror and still love myself and still have that, all the things we always hear about, the self-care, the self-compassion, the self-love, all those things. And I found that I could, which was actually very empowering. So chemo was a long 5 months. It was exhausting and it just completely destroyed my body, but not my spirit. And on my last chemo infusion, I had what I called the bye bitch party. And so I bought this beautiful dress in a size I would never thought I'd buy a dress in, but I bought this gorgeous dress. I bought myself a new pair of Louboutin pink wedges. Okay. I invited a bunch of friends, maybe 15 friends were at the infusion. They came for the last infusion. I had a cake made that said bye bitch on it with pink boxing gloves. I had bought a bunch of those party poppers, the It's a Girl ones for the pink.
Of course. Yeah.
And I had Mardi Gras beads and I had balloons. I mean, I decorated the room, went all out. And my girlfriend said it was the best party they had ever been to. I had like a Spotify playlist and we just partied. They were there. They saw me get the infusion. They were there when it was pulled out. And oh gosh, I just went on. I always go big. So then it came time to ring the bell. So we all went down. My nurses were there and everyone. And I rang the bell as in Selling Sunset. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but it's a real estate show. When they sell a house, they have this gigantic gong type bell that they have this big rope.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like the little poor chemo bell on the wall, and I went Selling Sunset style on it, and I started ringing that thing. Everyone's popping the party poppers, and the bell broke. It fell off the wall, and I broke it. So I'm holding it, and everyone's laughing. So I tried to fix it back on the wall, and I kept ringing it even more. Love in Dubai picked up the video, and I was just ringing the broken bell. And it was, it was my way of saying bye to the whole chemotherapy and everything I went through with it, but also just reaffirming that goodbye to the old me, because I was stepping into this new version of me who was much more empowered, informed, who had a mission, because I never really had a mission before. And that mission has evolved into really spreading awareness about this disease. So after my chemotherapy ended, radiation began. And I did have a few weeks off. We went to the Maldives for a little trip. When I look back on those pictures, I had the worst steroid moon face. I mean, I can't believe the way I looked. But at the same time, I figured, who cares? I'm never going to see any of these people again. So I just lived it up. Actually, on the island, there was another bald woman, and she had lost her hair during COVID and it never came back. Oh, wow. Yeah. So she and I saw each other. We were like, hi. It was like two bald ladies unite. And so I chatted with her a lot during the trip. But you came back, and then I had 25 rounds of radiation. And I am very fortunate that the radiation, some women get incredible burns and skin thickening, and it's a real struggle for them. And I just cruised through it. Even today, yesterday was my last day, and I just have slightly reddened skin, and that's it. So the radiation made me a little bit tired, but I was able to my mind just cleared up, and I was able to start really focusing on work again. And, during the whole chemo journey, I was still doing a lot of work behind the scenes for my brand. I never stopped, and it was great because it gave me sort of this pot of gold at the end of the cancer rainbow. And, it's always been something to have to work towards. And so same with radiation, although I was able to do a lot more work because the chemo, even though it's still in my body now, it's really starting to flush out. So I feel better week by week. And I'm still dealing with a lot of the side effects, but, at this point I can handle anything and everything. So, I'm just here, and now I'm talking to you lovely ladies, and I feel like I'm, on the other side of the 2 treatments. I'll have a scan in a few months to see if there's anything left. If there is, then there'll be more, another course of action. I don't know what that would be. It depends on what they find. If there's not, then I'm in the clear, and I will just have regular checkups and scans for quite some time. I do have to go on hormone therapy, and it's not the type of hormone therapy you would use if you're going through menopause, because I can't have the estrogen going into my system. Instead, this one is going to put me into, or keep me in, that chemical menopause, which is a pain, and it's not something I want to deal with. But at the same time, I would much rather go through it and be alive than to not have it. So, I'll just handle the side effects best I can. And all I really want to do at this point is launch my brand and lose 10 kgs. So that's my story.
Wow. So that last session that you had yesterday was the actual last step. So now you're done with all these steps.
Yeah. So I'm done with the prescribed chemotherapy and the radiation. So now I'm done with those, which is great. I started February 22nd with chemo. So it's been a long, long time of me constantly being in the hospital. I felt like I traded my social life and all my beauty events and everything for hospital visits. I told my oncologist, I'm like, you're my new person. You know?
How was it like going to the hospital, going for your first chemotherapy?
Oh my gosh. So it was wild. So you can see I have this scar right here, and a portacath was put underneath my skin. And it basically was this little sort of like a launch pad or a pad for the injection to go in for the chemo, and then it would feed it into my body. So I had this bump under my skin for 5 months, and I never got used to it. I've met ladies with cancer, and they say it doesn't bother them at all. For me, it just always felt like there was some sort of alien thing trying to come out of my body. I just really didn't like it. But the first session I was there, I had the cold cap thing going. There was a lot of newness happening. And I remember when the infusion started, and it was the actual, because at first they give you steroids and they give you fluids and stuff like that. But when it was time for the medication, and it's called the Red Devil because it's bright red. And it's also called the Red Devil because the side effects are horrendous with it. And I just saw it coming down and coming closer and closer to my body. And it was about to go in. And I thought, this is it. This is it. And so it went in, and the chemo journey started. And the side effects were really hard to manage. You have to take so many medications to, try to counteract them. And I also had to give myself an injection every night after chemo for the first 5 nights. And it was a long, thick needle. And it was because the chemotherapy basically destroyed my bone marrow. So it was to help the white blood cells, like to increase the white blood
Your
cell count.
immunity.
Yeah. So, there was just a lot happening with my body. I felt horrible. By the end of the fourth infusion, I said to my doctor, if you give me one more, I actually think I will die. I don't think I can make it through it. It's just, it compounds. So every infusion gets worse and worse. And I said to him, I just really don't think I can do it. And he said, no, we're only doing 4.
Oh, wow. How long does the session last?
It lasted about, I would say 3 hours. But because of the cold capping for the first 2, I had to be there earlier because you have to cold cap for the first hour. Because what it does is it essentially freezes your head. And so the blood flow is, not as prevalent or not as strong. So the chemotherapy drug can't hit the follicles or the cells for your hair, because the chemotherapy kills all rapidly producing cells. So the cancer is very rapidly producing. So that's why it targets the cancer cells. But our hair also is rapidly producing, and our nails. So the chemo attacks those as well. That's why we lose them. Yeah.
And you said there was a lot of different kinds of breast cancers.
Yes.
I had no idea.
I didn't either. That's why I'm saying when I did that breast cancer charity event, I had no idea. Looking back on it, I was so uninformed.
Yeah.
I mean, and here I am talking to women about their own breast cancer journeys. I had no idea. There's triple negative breast cancer, which is they don't know where the breast cancer came from. There's breast cancer also that's triggered by the BRCA gene, which I do not have. Okay. So some women have that gene in them that triggers the breast cancer. They're more likely to get it. There is the type of breast cancer I have is called invasive ductal carcinoma. And that one is in the milk ducts of the breast. There's triple positive breast cancer. And to be honest, I'm not even sure what that one is. I have one thing that's kind of interesting is when you have breast cancer and you come out with your story, which I didn't do until after I finished chemo. I did not announce it on my social media. Only my close friends and my family knew. And that was just to protect my own peace, because I knew I'd be getting so many messages. Even today, I have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of DMs that I just haven't answered because I don't have the time to, it's just hard. I appreciate the messages, but I couldn't imagine having so many questions and not enough answers, and then talking about it openly and having people constantly message me. So that's why I really just went off social media, which for me was interesting because I was always on social media. But one thing is when I came out with it, just people came out of the woodwork. I mean, I didn't know so many people were following me from people that I went to grammar school with. And I was, yeah, it's really interesting. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, just people from the past.
Okay.
And one girl who actually I was quite good friends with when I lived in Chicago, but we just, it just faded. But she messaged me and she told me that she had been diagnosed with this really rare connective tissue breast cancer, which I had never even heard of. And she said it's so rare and she had to have a single mastectomy. So there's so many different types out there and there's so many different courses of treatment for them. It's sort of, in a way, just a spectrum. It's like when they talk about the autism spectrum and, every child is so unique and different in what their autism diagnosis. I think of breast cancer in a similar way where it just seems like everybody has a slightly different type of breast cancer or the location or if it's fed by hormones or not, or there's just so much out there I still don't know about. But I do know about mine.
Okay.
But some are still more common than others, I guess.
Yeah, some are super rare. Some are very common. And then there's the whole whether or not you have the gene. That plays a huge factor into it. And there's a lot out there about it, there's a lot of different stuff, but there's actually not a lot out there about it because we just don't know. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was just a tumor in the breast. I had no idea that there's like a huge menu of different types of breast cancers and whatnot. So it was really interesting. And there's a lot that people don't talk about. And even I joined a few Facebook groups, which at first I just realized that was a mistake for me personally, because it's just, there's a lot of traumatized women on these groups. And when you're still going through your initial shocked phase, it's not necessarily good to read that stuff. But as I got more comfortable with my diagnosis, the shock wore off. And, occasionally I put up a question. And so a lot of people talk about radiation. Nobody talks about the fact that they're going to tattoo you. You can see right here, this little tattoo. And when I went to go get my first, the day before my radiation started, they had to go do some tests on me just to get my body aligned up for the machine. And the nurse says, okay, now I have to give you your tattoos. And I said, what tattoos? And she said, I have to give you 3 tattoos. And I said, are you going to do like a heart or like, what are we doing here?
Do I have a choice?
Yeah. And she said, you need it for when they align you in the machine. Somehow there's these green lasers and they align it with the tattoo, the placement. And because when you go in the machine, since everyone's different, the machine has to move around to fit your own body contours. Yep. And it's like a guidepost. Okay. So I thought, my husband said to me, I did not expect to see you get tattooed today. And I've never had a tattoo and so that was really shocking to me. And nobody talks about this stuff. So I am now putting a lot of content out there about just my experience, the things that have happened to me, and, just putting it out there, I guess, for other women to come across who might be going down this journey themselves.
And even for those people who aren't going down the journey, this is all really interesting stuff that I feel like, I should have known that there are different kinds of breast cancer.
Well, there's also, it's 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. Yeah. And that is that is a huge number. It is a huge. I was talking to someone this morning that has a group that has 5,000 women in it. And I can't do the math in my head, but 1 out of 8 for 5,000 women. Yeah. That's a huge portion of women that are going to potentially be getting
diagnosed.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
it's actually the 2nd anniversary of one of my husband's best friend's wife died today, 2 years ago from breast cancer.
Oh,
she was fighting it for about 10 years.
Wow.
Like she left behind 4 kids, and it was just,
oh my goodness.
She was 42 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was still very, very young.
Yeah.
And she was fighting it for a long time. But just seeing like the amount of strength that she had was incredible. You know, like her husband was constantly posting like updates about how she's going, you know, her journey and everything. And it was just to the very end, she was fighting all the time, and it's horrible. And then in 2 days, one of my other friends has got an appointment to go see a doctor because she found a lump in her breast. So like, these things seem to happen so much.
They do.
We all know someone who has or had breast cancer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's scary.
And you just don't think it will happen to you until it does. I actually, this was during Expo. So what was that, 2021? And being a beauty editor, a lot of women always want to come up to me and show me their new beauty brands. You know, it happens a lot. And I was at a party for Revolve, which actually is where I got my dress from for my Bye Bitch party. I love Revolve. But I was at this party for Revolve at the American Pavilion at Expo. And it was like a fashion show, and this lady came up to me and she was like, "Oh, hi, how are you? Who are you?" You know, sort of networky thing. And it turned out that she had a friend who went through breast cancer, and she created these deodorants that didn't have a lot of the, you know, hormone disruptors and all those kind of things. It was very clean deodorant. And she wanted to meet with me to show me the deodorants. So I was in a great mood that day. So I said, "Sure, we can meet." And so we met for lunch a few days later at this cafe in my neighborhood. And she was telling me all about, you know, why she created this product. It was because of her friend's breast cancer. Well, that lady ended up getting breast cancer a couple years later. And then I got breast cancer. So, I mean, when you say what are the chances, they're actually really high.
Yeah.
You know, they're really high. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about that. But, you know, it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
So what would you say to women out there, right? Check yourselves more often, right?
Fill yourself up every day.
Because this is technically, you can avoid this.
Yeah,
right?
honestly, you should really know your breasts. And I mean, every day I would be massaging my breast. Just get to know your breasts really well so you can start to notice if there is an inconsistency. But there are some cancers where it's so far deep that it would be impossible to actually palpate it.
Right.
I met a woman yesterday. I was doing this campaign for breast cancer for a store in Dubai. It's going to launch in October. And they had a group of women who are all breast cancer survivors, or me, still going through active treatment. And the lady told me that her breast cancer was so far back and so deep that it would have never been, she would have never felt it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had actually been there for probably 4 or 5 years until she noticed something happened to her, a change in her nipple, which made her go get it looked at. So you have to be diligent about your health. And I'm a big believer in following your intuition. And so if your intuition is telling you something, just act on it. You know, that's the GPS of our soul. For me, when I felt my lump, I knew right away I needed to go get it looked. Even though I didn't think it was anything, I didn't delay. I just went and got, you know, I'm a doer, and everyone needs to be a doer. You have to be proactive with your health and your breasts, and making sure that if you do have this disease, if you do get it, you catch it as early as possible, because then you'll have the best prognosis.
Yeah. So what would you say to women that are scared to get checked out?
It's scarier to get breast cancer than to get you have to do these things. It would be as if you're pregnant and you decided to never go see a doctor. You're just going to sort of wing it, because women used to wing it back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be proactive for your health. If you're pregnant and you know that you're going to have that baby, there's going to be some pain when you're going through labor, or if you're having even a scheduled C-section, there's going to be recovery. You know that that's in your future. So it's the same mindset. And you know, they say breast cancer warrior, because honestly, when you are going through it, you realize how strong you actually are. And we just have this amazing reserve of resilience, I think, within us all. And you start to really draw on it. And I think if you're scared to go to the doctor, you need to start drawing on that resilience now, and just make it happen. Just do it, because not doing it could lead you down a very dark path.
Sure. So do you feel like you and many other women could never go back to your previous life after this? Is it life-changing, really?
You know, I feel it's this sounds, I don't know quite how to word this yet. I have to think about my wording, but I feel in its own way, breast cancer has been the biggest gift and blessing in my life. It has completely upgraded me. And before I had it, I was very outspoken. I was very much a go-getter. I was still me. But this has just added this dimension to my life and to who I am and how I choose to express myself and carry myself, and how it's made me more empathetic and compassionate. And I feel like I'm just so much more of an upgraded version of me than I was before. I would have told you I loved myself back in, November, right before getting diagnosed. But now I just think like the depth of it is something I don't think I would have reached had I not gone through an experience like this.
Right.
So yeah, it's changed me forever. I would never go back. And I mean, breast cancer is certainly something I wouldn't want to choose. I believe that my soul chose for me to go through this experience. And I wish my soul chose for me to go through the experience of somehow coming into $1 billion and seeing if I could be a good person after that. But no, it chose breast cancer. So, I'm wrapping it into a little bit into my brand to constantly get that awareness out there. It actually flows really well with my brand. And I'm just always going to be an advocate for women and for raising awareness. And now that I've gone through it, I can really understand what that truly means.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So speaking about your brand, I know you can't talk much about it, but we want to know what we can.
Okay. So I'll tell you what I can.
Okay.
So I have wanted to create a beauty brand since I was probably 15 years old. And my family, I come from I would say, a strict family. I had a strict upbringing. My parents told me I had to be a mechanical engineer. So I went to school and I became a biomechanical engineer.
Sorry, do you have brothers?
Yes.
And they chose you to be the mechanical engineer?
Yeah. My brothers, I was the oldest. So you know how things go.
Right.
And I was just more compliant.
Okay.
My brothers were just, forget it. They won that.
All right. Okay. So I understand your parents' point of view now.
Yeah. But yeah, my dad's dream was for me to always be a mechanical engineer. I don't know why. I was in school, in university, and I was always flipping through I would spend all my money on Cosmopolitan and Allure magazine. I was always looking at beauty magazines. My dream was actually to be a beauty editor or a news anchor, something along those lines. But I just didn't think it was in the cards for me because my parents said I couldn't. So,
no.
But I remember being just a kid, and my mom would buy me those soap kits where you would kind of infuse your own oils into soaps and make soap. And I was just always into this stuff. I worked at Bath and Body Works during college. So I just loved being around products. I've always been a products girl. And even before moving to Dubai, I was researching if you could manufacture makeup in Dubai. And I mean, this was back when I lived in Chicago. So I've always had this inside of me, and I just need to express it and bring it into the world. So
did you finish mechanical engineering?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
finished it?
actually have a master's of science in nursing as well.
Oh, wow.
And I don't remember learning anything about breast cancer during nursing school. I kept trying to draw back on it. I mean, it's possible I glazed over it, or I don't know whatever happened, but I had plans to be a nurse anesthetist. Not that I really wanted to do it.
I've never heard of that.
It's in the US. It's basically like an anesthesiologist, but you do the same thing, but you go through a nursing, there's like a nursing pathway. So it's basically if you want to be a nurse, but make, more money and get into the anesthesiology side of it, that's where the money is. And I thought, I would be good at that, just putting people to sleep all day. So that was back in my 20s though. And we moved out to Dubai, and I was pregnant when we moved here. So just everything got sort of washed away. But anyways, back to the beauty brand. And I just had to start this beauty brand. And I was doing stuff by myself around Dubai, trying to figure it out. And I'm a very spiritual person. So I'm an amazing manifester. I did not manifest breast cancer, but I did manifest an amazing doctor, team and all this wonderful stuff that's happened to me since. But I wrote down in my notebook, like, dear universe, send me someone who can help me with this beauty brand to get this, to launch it, because there's just too much stuff. I don't understand everything I need to do. And I went for Cosmo to a store, this new beauty store that had opened up. And I had met this lady, and she walked me around, showed me all these niche beauty brands, which was for me heaven. And at the end, she told me she was actually leaving her job because she was starting a company where she was going to help people with the idea of a beauty brand go from the idea to actually having the brand in stores. And I said, thank you, universe. Like, you just literally served this to me. So I've been working with my consultant, Emily, for 2 years. And I've come up with a theming that I've never seen done in beauty before, mainstream beauty. And the name of my brand is so good.
Oh, that's so neat.
It's so good. And there's so much meaning behind it. And when people see it, they're going to say, wow. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so good. The beauty industry is going to go nuts. And
I can't wait. When are you launching?
It's February. And my first product is something that I guarantee you have never heard of before. It's never come across my desk as a beauty editor or a beauty influencer or a beauty blogger. And when you see it, you're going to think, how did I not have this in my life? And you're going to love it. You're going to love it. It is so clever. And, the idea just came to me a few years ago. And actually, my first product for my brand was going to be something different. And it's something that just doesn't really align with going through breast cancer. So I decided to save that for, maybe product 3 or 2 or 3 or 4. And the first one is going to be this different one instead. And I think it's going to really rock the beauty world. I'm a go-getter. I am going to get it into Sephora. It's going to be global. Amazing. I'm going to make it happen. And it's just going to also be a brand that comes with just this beautiful energy of raising awareness for breast cancer. I'm always going to be outspoken about it. Mm-hmm. So it naturally is just going to be infused into my brand.
You need to launch it February 22nd in that case.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. First day of chemo. I was initially going to launch it in November. And then I got worried about the US election because how that's going to go. And I didn't want it to get buried in the news. And then I was thinking January, but that's the inauguration. And so then I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want it. I want it to have its own moment and not be overshadowed by anything, going on with that sort of thing. So yeah, February. I like it. February 22nd. February I was going to do January 12th. That was the day of my surgery. But I like February 22nd. Okay. 22 has actually always been my special number.
There you go.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. So are we talking skincare or makeup? I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to guess what it is. I really want to know now.
You'll never be able to guess. Okay. The first product is skincare. So the brand is going to be skincare and makeup and much more. It's just going to be fabulous. It's so
She's
good.
Not letting anything go.
I'm known for being very picky about ingredients. I know the right ingredients to put in products and the fillers and the stuff that actually is really drying to the skin and the fragrances. I'm always so against those. And the manufacturers have told me they've never had a client like me before because I am so picky. And I just know exactly what I want. And they're not used to this sort of thing. Usually they get people coming in and saying, I just want a moisturizing cream. And then they'll be able to produce one. But I'm like, well, what's in this moisturizing cream? And I'm like, nope, you got to take out this, this, and this. My product is not a moisturizing cream. I will come out with one, but that's not the one I'm talking about. But I'm so focused on ingredients.
Okay.
And so, which is also a great thing for women to not be putting hormone disruptors on their skin and, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And I just can't wait to start that next chapter of my life.
I'm really looking forward to that for
you. Thank you.
That's really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we've been talking a lot and I know we are talking a lot. But I also want to speak about there's Breast Cancer Awareness Month next month in October.
Yes.
And I do want to mention the fact that we are going to be updating our blog and putting in all the places to go and visit that are free, that you can go get screenings done, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Do you have-
Before we finish, though, you wanted to ask her about how she handled the expenses.
Yeah, as well.
Oh, well, the expenses.
Yeah. So you need a good insurance. I guess.
So
A
I
very good
am
one.
incredibly fortunate because my husband has fantastic insurance. We haven't paid a thing.
Oh,
I haven't paid a
really?
dirham for anything. And that's something, like I said earlier with my mission, I feel like I've had the creme de la creme. I went to MediClinic and I was under the MediClinic umbrella, and I've had the best doctors and the best nurses that you could ever wish for to have going through a journey like this. And I know that not everyone gets this. Most people don't. So I'm getting goosebumps now talking about this. So that means it's going to happen. But, I'm going to somehow, I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm going to pay it forward. And I want every woman to get what I had. So that's sort of my overarch or my mission. And then I have to figure out how to do that. But I already have a few ideas of just starting small. And I want to wait till I'm done with my own treatments before I need to focus on myself first. But yeah, it's been incredible. So I feel like every woman deserves to have it. And I will at some point, maybe through my brand or a different initiative, but I will do something to make sure that more women get to have what I had. And I didn't pay a single thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And, one of my girlfriends who's a teacher, she was saying with the insurance she has, she would still have to pay a 20% copay. And the treatments are so expensive that would easily bankrupt her. And so, how can we bring, how can this happen? Like, how can every woman get the treatment that she needs, or women that, are in developing countries, and how can they get the same treatment that I had? Because everyone deserves to have that.
Absolutely.
And a teacher shouldn't have to think to herself, I can't afford this, so I don't have the answers, but I do have the questions. And I will, as I go through my own journey, continue on this journey and, I guess network more and get more perspective, get more time put behind me and my own treatments, I think I'll come to the conclusion or come up to some answers and be able to make some real actionable changes. And I'm the type of person that will go and, not that I would necessarily knock on the ruler of Dubai's front door, but they would definitely stop me. But I would, nothing's going to hold me back from accomplishing any of my goals. Certainly not breast cancer. So I will get there. I'll figure that out.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I have no doubt.
I'll make it happen.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
I just like this. It's made me want to go and have a look at my insurance and see what.
Yeah, you should.
Right?
You really should.
Just with that statistics alone.
I know.
Make sure you're completely covered and
Yeah, because I did see some of the bills as I was going, to different appointments and whatnot, and it just shocked me. Just going to get my dressing changed was 4,000 dirhams. So imagine if you have to pay 20% of 4,000 dirhams and you are making, a teacher salary here in Dubai. Like how does that work? And that's only a dressing change. That's not the surgeries or anything else. Obviously you'd have to probably go back to your home country if you have a streamlined or, free healthcare system. But I had everything so quickly and they were just on top of it. For the doctors, there would be 18 doctors that get together every Wednesday to discuss your case. They would have, like a free, almost like to the point, one of the doctors told me they would like argue about the case, like what's best for this patient. And I felt so lucky. I did say, well, what picture are they putting up of me on the screen? Can I have any say in that? But, I'm just so lucky, so fortunate. And I feel like that's part of why I was given this cancer and, given this sort of journey that I'm on, because I know I can take what I've had and just really advocate for other women too. Yeah, so I will.
Yep.
I don't doubt it.
I support you 100%.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for this conversation, Lauren. You are
Thank
very
you for having me.
strong and brave.
Thank you.
Inspirational. And I think we covered a lot, not enough probably. So everyone, check out her social media. I'm sure you're going to give us lots of updates as well about
Yes, we'll be
everything
waiting.
that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you said-
resources, information about breast cancer, motivation to get checked up, because that's what every woman should do, right? And October is the right
Correct.
moment to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you said you're going to get your next test results in 2 months.
I think it's going to be in January. They're going to
Okay.
do the scan, and they wait a while because my body's so inflamed right now from the chemo and the radiation. They want just to let things go down. Otherwise, if they did the scan, everything would just be lighting up. Yeah.
Okay.
That was how it was explained to me.
And do you think you'll tell your followers the results in January, do you think? Or
Yeah. Well, if I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'll have to see and kind of see what I'm most comfortable with and
Okay.
just use my own intuition, like I said.
Yep.
You know, if I was to go into more treatments, maybe I wouldn't say something right away, or maybe I will. I don't know. We'll have to ask the future version
Yeah,
of
exactly.
me.
That's gonna be
Yeah. It's
mean-
not too far away. So
No.
we'll see what happens. But I feel like no matter what the results come back, I can handle it. And I know that I'll be just fine.
We'll be rooting for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so Lauren, can you tell us where we can find you on your socials?
On Instagram, it's just my name. It's at lauren.o.connell. And that's
Okay.
with 2 N's and 2 L's. And my website is planetlauren.com.
Mhm.
My YouTube channel, just type in Lauren O'Connell Beauty and it'll pop right up. I have 60,000 subscribers. And TikTok is the same as Instagram at lauren.o.connell.
Okay.
So TikTok, I'm
Easy.
working on building. I feel like when I'm there, I'm in Times Square with just everything beeping at me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm working on TikTok.
Yeah, and that one's a hard one to navigate. As we head into Breast Cancer Awareness Month, this is a reminder how important early detection really is. And like we said, did you know that 1 in every 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime? So it's crucial to prioritize screenings. And if you or someone you know is looking for breast cancer screenings in the UAE, head over to some.ee where we have detailed blog listing free or reduced price screenings, as well as the locations and information you need to take advantage of this important health services. So thank you again for joining us on Talking DS, and until next time, keep stretching those dirhams. Bye.